Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack, and we also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
today we are doing episode 2 of the She-Hulk series that's on the Disney Channel, Disney streaming, Disney Plus. They have She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and episode 2 is after the first episode. What happens? She-Hulk gets fired. She gets let down. She's in down in the dumps. She goes to see her father, and we get to see, cousin Larry as her father, and of course something pops up. She gets a new gig as being a lawyer connected to how comic book can you get is she becomes a lawyer for superheroes, right? Now, I would say, yeah, why I'm being cynical, because when Daredevil was doing it in the past, it was a fun thing until they did it like 3 million times. So now they kind of doing it, and it's just kind of like this is the only avenue she can go in. Ultimately, in the Chris Claremont story, and then later the Byrne series, she worked either for the defense or she worked for the district attorney. So it's like she was able to get a job because that's what superheroes do in the Marvel universe. They're able to hold down jobs. They sometimes lose them but find another one. So it's a little bit of, I can't get it, but it's a little. I'll get into that a little later. But otherwise, she gets the job, and who is she going to be defending? Tell them.
Emil Blonsky, better known to all you people as the Abomination. And he is really living up to his name because what they have done to his character is an abomination.
So she says before she takes this case, like, well, not like any lawyer, because it's always a job and money. It's like, hey, Bruce, I'm going to, I'm going to defend Emil Blonsky. Are you okay with that? And he's like, yeah, I'm okay. Wait, the guy was trying to kill you. It's not like it's a guy that was, you had a rivalry with in Harlem, and you just shot dice, and he took your money or something like that. He tried to kill you. Then you tried to kill him, but the real Betty decided to get you to calm down. He's like, damn it, I wanted to kill him. That's one of my favorite moments in that movie. But yeah, so ultimately they're gonna have some fun, with was it Bill? Was it Bill? Is it Roth? Is that who was? That's the actor.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he's a real talented guy. So obviously you want to have him out of costume as much as possible. So you know, um, let's see where it goes before I get into any more of all my other stuff I want to get into. What do you say, sir?
well, of course he's going to be out of costume. They don't have the They barely have the budget for She-Hulk. What are they going to do with him? They
Uh,
probably couldn't even that little clip of him fighting in Shang-Chi. They probably like, man, can we afford to show this clip?
the Hulk is they're spending so much money on the little bit of Hulk scenes. And this episode for the She-Hulk, she was like, I mean, what's the name? Jessica Rabbit looks better than She-Hulk. I mean, come on, guys, put this together.
Well,
But
that's Jessica Rabbit.
but
Yes, if you have not seen Jessica Rabbit, they spent a lot of time getting that character right. They had the models. They knew that. Well, I mean, she was a big part of that movie. So there were three characters that they really worked on getting correct. Jessica Rabbit was one of them, and of course Roger Rabbit. And the third one, I'll leave that up to all you people who are into the trivia for it. But otherwise, this was a. I thought this was a real. Was it? This was like a real donut hole of a show. Okay, there was really nothing there. Okay, and it was really short. I don't see it doesn't really do a lot to further anything that was established that first episode. Maybe with the extent of her getting a job that she didn't want is probably not going to be very good at. If we go along with the whole, if we go along with the whole working girl trophy, that's likely what'll happen. But hey, we'll see, right? We got another episode coming down the pike. I don't believe this. I'm already skipping to the next episode. That's how little bit there was right here. I mean, they do the whole family thing with the powers being used more of a your family comes in and now your powers are being more used for convenience. You're putting up stuff on the wall. You're carrying all the water for us, literally carrying all the water for us. So
Hmm.
you had that aspect, and they're playing it. I mean, they're playing it for laughs, but not like with Thor, where they were playing it for yucks. And so that's where that's just where the show is right now. But I mean, I stand by what I said. This is probably going to get a second season. It just comes across as, again, like this is a donut hole, but donut holes are what? They're edible, and you can just keep popping them before you know you've eaten 20 of them.
Well, I'll say this with me, one of the things that's kind of funny, and I get it, in my own leisure, trying to translate stuff to like film on paper, like that's on to script. I get that when you're sitting down there, you're just saying, you know what, I don't want to have to do this the same way, but it's like almost always a 180. You can lead into what they're trying to do, but it's just like She-Hulk in the regular series, they have a whole thing of her going for become the prosecutor of the district attorney job. So it's like something that is viable for her to do. Like it's like she's right in line. She's like she's the top candidate that the district attorney want. And then in the later part of the series, when She-Hulk goes home to family, she's like, she goes in there, and I think was it a Wheezy, Louise Mason. She comes in and says, "Hey, Jen, I didn't know you had this big a family." And there's like a whole crowd of people. It's like, I don't. And she pulls out the Marvel
The
Universe
Marvel
handbook.
Universe handbook.
She's like, there's only like I have father, mother deceased, and that's and cousin. That it's all all out of family. And then they brought in that story they brought in her supporting cast from the Savage series who were doing pretty well for themselves. So, but the father was kind of like, hey, this is one of the things that's missed is that, which doesn't have to be like Marvel angst where it's just like it turns into, I can't stand this. She's a creature. Whereas basically, he loved his daughter, and now she's a 6'7" or 6'7" giant. So it'd be like kind of, can you just? I just want my daughter here. That's was the cool part of his character, and it plays out later when is a in the comic book. It plays out later. There's a switch of powers where just same way that like Doctor Doom and Reed switched, those same people to get out of a jam, they kind of switch powers. They switched their minds into other. So they switched their bodies to the other ones. That's what happened in the other story. They switched their bodies, and then Wheezy Mason, who was older, she gets the She-Hulk's powers, and then the world accepts her as the new She-Hulk, and they hey, this is a new She-Hulk. And since she was Louise Mason was a blonde phantom, they just accept her as a hero, and she was a hero in the past. And She-Hulk is like, not sure what's going to happen here, and she's like the little small heavyset girl now. And because and Wheezy didn't want to give it up, but then the father comes and like saying, first my daughter, now my girlfriend is a She-Hulk. I just want a regular, and she sees it and she gives up. She finally, because it's so much fun being She-Hulk, the Wheezy wants to keep it too. So I went on a little too long, but it's just like there are bits in there that are interesting that I think would be fun. But I know that the people are sitting around and like, I don't want to translate this stuff that's in a comic book. Just look, can we? But then they do just the 180 of it, Have they? Because she had a wacky family. They didn't even try to get the family that looked like her. They're just like, here's some people, some extras we found. Here's my nutty couple brothers. But that scene was really like
Here's some players. We got some players for you. Okay.
But it looked like the scene was almost the same as the what was it the movie about the musician, like when the rivalry with the family and they were going back and forth, and it was just like this is really similar to that scene with Paul Reiser and the guy who used to be was Reed Richards. So it's I mean, I don't know. There's a little this episode for me kind of stamped it in the ground that I don't know. Every time I watch the Marvel stuff, I wind trying to find something else on Disney Plus to kind of fill the gap that's missing from the enjoyment of it feels like there could be something there. There's something there, and I don't want to wait to get to episode 5 and 6 to get there. Like a TV show, like a Three's Company, A Small Wonder, if we're going to go to low level television, they have a beginning, middle, and end of these stories. They have subplots, all that stuff within, or Martin, whichever sitcom you want to go to, whichever drama you want to go to. And I think they're just basking in the glory of being the Marvel success and just putting something out there and having talent. That if the talent is rising to the occasion, just give us some story. Give us a full, not here's a, yes, there's some time. No, in comics, there are stories that are, this is a setup to the next story, right? It happens. But not in TV. But anyway, I went on too long. I went on a tirade.
Well, that's been a problem that the TV and the films have had. Well, maybe not the initial Marvel movies, but their approach to the comic stuff is that the comic stuff is stupid. That, I'm not going to go look. It's a comic book. There's all this wild, wacky stuff going on, so on and so forth. They got me on this, and then they always go LCD, lowest common denominator, with it, where we're going to play this for laughs. That's the way they love to do most comic book stuff. We're going to play this for laughs. We'll try to just, and not like humor, but borderline slapstick at the end of the day, with a character, who's supposed to be dead serious. You'll have a character like the Green Hornet, and we're going to play this. We're just going to play this for laughs and hijinks, if you will, like some Keystone Cops nonsense. And then but if they actually took the time to look at it, say, wait a minute, there's actually there's really some good storytelling here. We could adapt this and go with it for the show. No. They'll probably, who knows if they even read the Marvel Universe handbook? Well, obviously not when you look at her family, but they come and they decide, all right, I just got this semblance right here, or they'll give them like a story Bible, and that's it. And they're just like, all right, we'll create something from that. And it's almost as if you can feel the disdain. Because like, what can I learn from reading a comic book? What kind of stories, are really going to be better than what I'm putting out based on what they got over here in a comic book? And so they don't do it. And that would actually be helpful to them, because that's pretty much your first season, maybe even your second season. You don't really have to do too much. You can go and say, okay, we can adapt these sort of things, and then we could actually get on a roll with it, because we'd have a better understanding of these characters and the situations that we could put them in, where we can get a lot of dynamism out of them, because you can really see where it was that they got that same dynamism in the comics. Instead, they start on their own. And then a lot of the stuff that you watch, the character going through is like, well, they already did this stuff in the comic. You could, do that type of stuff and let it play out, not to the point that you're following the script, but that would definitely buoy you for the initial, for the initial stories on the run. That's why you have an origin at the very least.
Yeah.
So, you get that much to buoy you forward, and then you can say, okay, fine, we can, now we can do some whole cloth stuff here, because we have a pretty good understanding of what these characters are, where they should be, what they need to do. We've got it. We've got it when it comes to all of that. That's just about all the successful superhero stuff that I've ever seen, with the exception, actually no exceptions really come to mind right now, but those 3 seasons of Daredevil, where comic stories that were like, okay, we got these particular stories, they adapted them to a certain extent, did what they had to do for TV, and voila, you had very successful storytelling, especially that first season. You had very successful storytelling at the end of the day. Of course, they want to do the TV stuff where nobody can really have a secret identity, because we don't want to be bothered writing that. That's something that none of them were able to get over the hump with it. But otherwise, those people who did that have really success. They just have a lot of success in rendering these characters in that particular medium. When they don't do it, we get a lot of meandering stuff. I think Miss Marvel was different, because I don't really believe she had great stories to begin with. So even if they had gone back there, like, okay, I don't know exactly what they would have brought up, but they might, even then, it just wasn't a superhero show. This She-Hulk just came straight out like, look, we're not doing that. This is not going to be a superhero show. I'm like, okay, great. So I can just accept that it's not going to be there. But then what is your story at the end of the day? And with the second episode in, they're still not quite there. But I think this will probably one of those, there's no trade paperback for TV, but once you have all the episodes out, a lot of people, I think, will get probably a lot of enjoyment just watching them, back to back, especially with the length that they're putting on these episodes, if they stay like the second episode.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. I would, well, when you brought up Ms. Marvel, it's interesting. Well, it's a comic pariah. Ethan Van Sciver brought up that they had to do a lot of fixing to turn her into a comic book character, shift from being a silly sort of thing. And I have to give them credit. They did turn it into Green Lantern and aspects of it that would be um, more viable for like the live action, or even better for a comic book. Way better for a comic book, even though it didn't even hit the bar yet of where it should be. But yeah, I mean, it's that's this aspect of not having to be a superhero, and she's fighting against it. But one of the things you miss when you don't do, like in this Marvel universe, not having the Mark Ruffalo in the explosion type of thing origin, is that you kind of miss what it took to become a Hulk, right? Like that was the big thing of him being, being at the, like we've seen it done right in, say, I mean, the explosion part in the obviously in the first Hulk movie, when they show how what happened when he was a kid being at the blast site, not the, but even that had, his actual origin had some tension, but having that big blast site really means like he survived this and he has this. It's a real something. It's something really big that happened to him. That's what the using the actual comic book origin rather than worrying about this. Oh, he's at a bomb site. He would be dead. No, the thing of it, that's the shock of it. And then when you see him, what he turns into is like, oh well, I wouldn't want to become a Hulk and have to sit through. Now it's just like, hey, give me some green blood. Yes. It's like, I'll be, oh no, but they did try to give themselves an out because they said her blood has something special in it that lets her deal with it, and she doesn't have to worry about the anger. But
That's just female nonsense. That's another one of these tropes that they love to do. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
but I think that with the blood part, I think if you had the regular story, or at least if you're gonna do it in the half hour or 45 minutes and have her deal with the anger part, like deal with it. Have her deal with the anger, and then when she came out of it, say they were together for, I don't know. I don't know. She can't be that way because she got to go back to be a lawyer. But I think they could have played that out to be not that it's the most easiest thing to happen. You get Bruce's blood, and then once I I think as a comic fan, I immediately had 10 more stories of people getting the blood happening. So it's just like you don't want to have it that simple. You
Well,
you know
that's what they did in the comic.
well, at
I
least
mean,
there's a
and then
blood thing, a connection to it. It seemed like if Bruce blood goes to anybody, it would work. The transfusion works because Bruce is like, okay, I'm giving her a transfusion, right?
yeah,
This is like, I pour your blood on my blood, and it's just like, the plan is to get to right to into the stream to
yeah.
save her, and it's just like, I don't know.
Well, that's one of the things that we take for granted. I think they take for granted with comic books because they look, oh, She-Hulk, what they gonna have next? Like She-Cap, they think it's silly, but the whole idea when the setup was, okay, we can't just have anybody becoming the Hulk.
Yeah.
So who's a She-Hulk? She's gonna be his cousin. So there is like there's a blood relation. So we got some genetic thing going on over here, and that's the reason why she would be able to accept the transfusion number one, and then for any of this other stuff to happen. So it's all we still try to keep some plausibility with the family aspect of it. And then because they who was before her, like Doc Samson, but yeah, that type of that sort of stuff going on. They're like, "Look, okay, let's try to put the clamps on this because we don't want. Hey, you gave a blood transfusion, and now you're the Hulk. Well, good grief, people would go and they would abduct Bruce Banner. And just like, hey, let's see how many Hulks we can make out of this dude at the end of the
Yeah,
day. So they did try. They even in comics they're like, no, we got to try to put some buffers on, some limits to this, so this just doesn't run rampant at the end of the day. But
well,
then we get what.
no, in the comic, she has like 8 to 9 issues of struggling with it, and that's the thing of saying. At least you get to a point where like she goes to the thing where like she's almost dying. Like so, they at least had an arc to say this. The same at the same time, I think a little while after that, Rick Jones had went to try to get gamma rated, and he got gamma infected, and he was in the hospital because they had already had who was it? Betty had already become the harpy. So they were kind of, as you said, they were trying to keep it down, but then of course, the 2000s came and you had everybody, Atom Bomb,
Rick
Red Hulk.
Rick Oh, Rick Jones is a particular case because Rick tries to do it and then he, ends up giving himself radiation poisoning.
Yeah, yeah.
But then he gets a second go at the whole thing because he falls in that nutrient bath with
Oh my
the
God.
Burns with the
Yeah, yeah.
Burns storyline, and then of course he actually becomes, he's the Hulk at that point, and then the Hulk, gets siphons the energy off so the leader can be himself again. And then we get what is it? The whole stuff with A Bomb. So he's got his thing might for me be a little bit more plausible because at the very least it took like repeated exposures for this to really do anything for him. And even then we get like we get different reactions from it at the end of the day. But then yeah, I mean for all of the stuff I'm saying, they kind of way just like, hey, let's just give away the ghost when they did the whole Fall of the Hulk storyline. And you literally got, literally you got Red Hulk, Blue Hulk,
Oh,
Green Hulk, Red She-Hulk, She-Hulk, Doc Samson, it's just all over, it's all over the place at the end of the day. They're almost like the Green Lantern Corps.
well, I mean, that's the thing with, oh no, I think ultimately the hard part is with the Hulk and everyone getting like, I hope that's not what well, I mean, we can't escape it. We can't escape everyone waiting to see the Maestro. They can't wait to see Red Hulk.
Oh, forget about that. We'll probably see Bruce Banner's son, Scar.
Oh God. It's like how Tarzan are you guys? Guys, it's a son of Hulk, no, but that how that happened. Oh my gosh.
Let's not make fun of Tarzan. That being said,
I'm saying they're taken from it where people would be like, "Hey, this doesn't work," and then Marvel does it, and it's like, "Yeah, no, it's okay." It's like how the X-Men work. I don't that like I'm not saying I'm okay with having that one not having Boy though. I'm not cool with Boy, but but when Marvel does something, it's like saying, "Hey, the pros are sitting in the room saying, 'Oh, this is terrible.' And the next thing you know, what do the pros do? Oh, we got to do a Son of Hulk. We got to do that. Why? Oh no, he came from the future and all that other stuff. But we've totally got off the She-Hulk. Sorry, guys. They just need a little more story in this episode. Hopefully, episode 3 will give us a little more, but they've kind of been trickling it out as they've done with most of the series. I will regretfully save what's her name? I guess Ms. Marvel had a lot of story. It's just kind of the some of the bits in there kind of was like get you kind of get me to go the other way. Say I don't know about this, but yeah, hopefully give us a little more when you're doing this next She-Hulk episode because it's not supposed to be like the what was it the Clone Wars, which it was like what like 10 minutes or something like that. Come on,
oh man,
they were under lock and key from Lucas at that point, so they could barely do anything. And then once they said, "Hey, there was some buzz around this. Let's do a whole series with it. Let's animate. Let's do a whole bunch of stuff." It's just like, well, you could have had Glendy do more than that, but it's like, hey, we're getting you locked in the
no,
10. But those ones gave you a lot of story in there for the 10
what
minutes.
the
Where you
10 minute
sit there and just like
shorts?
more, come on, I need more.
But no, well, that's
Yeah,
the thing.
yeah.
I think shorts always challenge the writers to be as concise
Hmm.
and precise as possible because you only have so much time. So that's it, and we're usually there. At the end of the day, it's like what are the best Superman animated
Oh,
cartoons are always those shorts from the Fleischers. Everybody says that. So I think they really forces them to say, okay, we're going to throw out all the stuff that we can't use. This is the stuff. Okay, we got the meat, we got the potatoes, and we got the gravy. Great, and everybody loves it. And then like, hey, do we get seconds? No, sorry, sorry. Even though this is great, okay, this is still a TV dinner. All right, so
yeah, yeah.
that's all you're gonna get. But then they went back and they were like, oh wow, man, we did like what? Look at the response. Yeah, we can get some mileage out of this. Like, nah, I don't know about it. And no, 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 we're gonna give you more time. Yeah, I don't know about it. And we can use CGI. I don't know about it. And we'll give you a bigger budget. We're sold. We're there. We're there.
Yeah.
But that was the big thing though, because I think originally they were like, yeah, we're gonna keep this short because animation is expensive
Hmm.
unless you want to do the Scooby Doo stuff with the moving background, animation is expensive. So they were like, no, we got this much money, we'll do this right here. And I hate saying this because so much of this stuff is dictated by money. With when it comes to a lot of aspects of the things that we see on television and in film, so
Mhm.
much of it at the end of the day. But that's where it is, unfortunately.
So, dare I say, go out and check the She-Hulk. We're hoping the best for it, and we just need a little more story next time. Spin around.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're not
sorry.
going to
You
get it.
go. You're not.
Yeah,
You had to.
we're not.
You had to kill. You had to pop the balloon. Had to do
Hey,
blow the bubble up.
right now, my money is that we will see Son of Hulk, which hopefully is as good as Son of Tarzan. Which, if you never read the book, don't knock it. It's a good story, but we'll probably see Son of Hulk, and we'll go from there because hey, we need to. I mean, that's what this whole thing has been set up. At the end of the day, they're not really furnishing us with a She-Hulk story, so why not introduce some more characters that, of course, you will not have some stories for them as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the hard part is you had stuff like those. Like the Arrowverse, where they would put. And as any television show, you're going to run into what I call like the battle for the Planet of the Apes effect, where you kind of lose your way at the end. But when you start out, they had a lot of stories, so.
That's really bad. That's really
But
bad.
a lot
That's
of a lot of TV struggle with that. Where you start, I mean, some of them can keep the flame going, like Cheers or Happy Days. Even though Happy Days is one where they got the jump the shark, I think they kept the flame going even once. I mean, it wasn't the ship was pretty bare when Ron Howard left, but they kept it going for a couple more seasons and a couple more spinoffs. So I think that but it's kind of from what it was to what it became is a big drift, and you see that more and more as you go along. Some, they kind of, rest in if you have kids, people growing up, that sort of thing. You just don't want it to be so drastic. You want to be like Cheers, where you're just like, hey, there's some things that aren't as strong, but the character is a lot more comfortable now. It's like a little lot, like everyone is, when everyone is kind of comfortable in their position, the stories are okay, even though they can get a little more wacky. But at the same time, I don't know what to say about this. I mean, we got the viable She-Hulk, and now they're saying, well, what are we gonna do? We're stuck not doing the Hulk yet. We didn't do. We have to do a Hulk, and now people are like, shouldn't they do a Hulk? What is the Hulk?
well,
The Hulk is a happy-go-lucky character. It's like the Thing, who's a scientist now.
no, that's the She-Hulk. And the Hulk is not supposed to be the nutty professor. The She-Hulk is supposed to. I mean, the whole idea that they went was that the Hulk was the expression. Bruce gets hit with gamma rays, and then for whatever reason, the monster comes out, but the monster was supposed to be a part of his subconscious. That's why he got the monster with the split personality. She-Hulk got to be the Barbie doll. That was what the subconscious was about. Same thing with was it Leonard Samson became Doc Samson because secretly he wanted to be a hero. And that, I thought they went somewhere with that. Betty became the Harpy, but then at the same time, later on she becomes Red She-Hulk. So that's when we're losing it. But the whole idea, if you went with the working girl aspect, it would have been okay. You have this woman who has the ability to transform into a 6'7" green monster for the Barbie doll monster for the for lack of a better term. Okay, but she still maintains all of her regular personality, and what does she do? She wants to still continue with her career. The logical story is that okay, she realizes she can use the She-Hulk stuff to further her career, and she does that. And then if they went the normal route, she would realize, okay, this isn't fair. I'm using these particular things and I have an unfair advantage with everybody else around me. And then they would probably throw in the whole male female things like, look, for years I've been, moaning about guys having this
Oh,
unfair
wow.
advantage or being given unfair treatment, because they're a guy. And now I'm getting the same treatment, but simply because because I'm 6'7" green and all this other type of stuff. And no, this isn't fair. I can't be an attorney and do this. I got to choose, and if I have to choose, I'm gonna have to choose a She-Hulk because I can't get rid of that part of me. There's your story. You can do that 6, 7 episodes. You can do that 6, 7 episodes. Right there is your story. Okay, that's what you should be doing. Right? That's what you, and I said it over here on Spinnerack, so you can't take it from me. Copywritten. So that's your story. That's what you should be doing. And instead, we're not seeing any of that. But even then, everything that I'm telling you, that's usually how these stories unfold. The person is supposed to learn something about themselves in this type of story structure. They're supposed to learn something about themselves, and I don't see that happening. Now, will it still be entertaining? I think for a good, for the demographic they're aiming for, I think it will be entertaining. But they could, if you, in terms of story, no, that's your story. You decided you didn't want to do that.
Yeah. So we've I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of when you have a character that was supposed. I mean, I guess they're kind of dealing with it where, like this is a stock character. Like as kids reading no, actually, I bought some of the She-Hulk issues. Maybe I think the total up to three of them.
The first series?
Yeah, I bought the two with the Michael Golden cover with the Word guy, and then I bought one which was
Oh, you were better than me. I read one issue, one
yeah,
issue, and I think it was free. And that was the only reason why I read it. I remember
they
chasing
had
after
one where
some.
sorry, you go.
No, I remember. I can't. I would have to go back and read the issues all over again to remember which one it was. But there was some episode, some issue where some guy, she was just chasing after this guy, and the guy was terrified that she was going to kill him. That's all I can remember about it. But other than that, I didn't read too much else. The Burn stuff, I read issues. With the I shouldn't call it the Burn run because I know he wasn't on the full run, but the Sensational She-Hulk, as I should say,
Mhm.
that I read. I read more of those particular issues, and I actually read more of them because I was hearing stuff about them in terms that they were funny, or read this issue with the jump rope. Look at these, or
Oh
they had
yeah,
some
yeah.
cover. They had some cover art that was like, oh, and if you're somebody who likes comics, and if you're somebody who like to read, I still sell comics, and there are times I get bogged down because I look at a cover like, what? I actually want to see what's going on in this one. This looks interesting. Let me take some time to read it. So you can bring people in on those type of things. Then the other series, I didn't really hear anything about them, and Dan Slott for me is, well, I've already said my criticisms about Dan Slott, so we don't have to get back in. We don't have to get back into that. Even isn't he back? Yeah, he's back on Spider Man again. But those were the issues that I actually read, and you can do something with that character. To be honest, I'm more familiar with She Hulk through Fantastic Four than I am any of her own series. I got more of her from that series than I did from anything else.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's one of those things as a kid, you know, I think as a I didn't have too much of a problem with her, and then the Michael Golden covers, I guess, kind of really brought me in to it, where it probably would have been similar. No, I guess it's right. What was it? I guess I was probably still in I was probably small at that point. So it was just something as a kid, it was just something like probably just something that was like, oh, this is okay. And so I bought that one. I had probably I wasn't buying. I had my mother probably buy them. So it was probably I think at least one of those ones with the Michael Golden covers where she's like, it's taking over me, that one. And there's one later one where she's fighting some guy that looks like one of those Mad Thinker, or that looks like the Super Adaptoid cover. So I was just like, I think those are the two I had. Or me or my brother had it, but in that case, either of us is reading each other's books. So, so at that point, when she came to the Avengers, I was really, as you saying, I was like kind of hooked in, and her joining the FF kind of was a surprise, but it was fun surprise because she appeared in the FF maybe like two times. Like she kind of just showed up, and she was hot to death under Burns inking. So I was just like, oh yeah, they're really doing it. But in the Avengers, every 2 seconds she gets caught in the tub. She's in the tub, Spider-Man's in there. She's in the tub with what's the name? When Jarvis, of course. But yeah, I think there's I don't know. I think they just they're too tied into this Marvel cinematic universe. They have to explain now why Wong was there. Now we get the new Stan Lee in Wong, who's in every one of these stories. Hey, it's Wong, like Norm. But who knows? We'll see what happens on Thursday. It's coming soon, right? You don't have to
Well,
wait too much longer.
and they don't want to hit the low hanging fruit where they would do, like, they don't want to do any sex gags. So that's the other thing, they would have probably given them some mileage and got some people watching it. But they don't. Well, sex can't be funny anymore, so they're not going to do that. But literally, if you did the whole scene if you had just had a clip of her jumping rope, similar to what they had in the comic, oh please, the viewership, the viewership, and the whole idea is like you were able to do stuff like that, and it was funny. It was funny. Nobody was about, hey, hey, this is some type of violation over here. This is assault. Like, no, it's just a gag. This isn't real. Like they would have, what was it? What would like one of those sight gags they would have with like the like a gust of wind goes by and the skirt goes up and it'd be some chick so you can see her and you would see her panties. I mean, God forbid they ever do anything of that nature. But there was a point where people could look at it and it was funny. That was it.
Well,
It's like, oh, it's just funny.
what you're talking is like with something they don't want to. I mean, they can slip that stuff in there, but I don't think that I think with every eye on it, it's kind of you can't really get away with what be the key moment in the movie where you're like, okay, um, I'm watching what's that thing? I'm watching The Golden Child, and what's her name's cute, but she has basically the '80s drapes clothing on, and then there's like, and Eddie Murphy's funny, it's funny, funny. Hey, there's this fight scene. Oh, someone happens, breaks a pipe. Wet t-shirt time.
Yes. Yes.
You can slip
Now we're
that in
talking.
there. But then at the same time, they played the whole scene seriously. They don't call that out. There's only the later point where think she's in they had the dream sequence, and she was like she's giving some rhythm to Eddie Murphy's character, and then at the end she's a totally different character at the end. She's the real person. She's Charlotte Lewis because she just relaxed and walking with Eddie Murphy. And like the director's just like, the audience is going to be okay with her just being normal now when she's been she's been half monk the entire episode. But
Of course, she's falling for the charms of Eddie Murphy, not necessarily the character, not necessarily the
yeah.
character in the movie.
So I mean, I
Uh,
see.
and mind you,
Well,
I mean gags. I'm not talking like when you would watch those sword and sorcery movies from like the '80s, the Argentinian ones, where like every other woman walking around was half naked. I'm not talking about
no,
that.
you're talking
I'm just
about
talking
like
about
you're
I'm
talking
just
about
talking like gags.
you're talking about the like the Cosby Show when what's her name Rudy's struggling with puberty, and she's like, it's not going to happen, and the next a friend of hers comes in that's a little overdeveloped, and she's just like, she has a side eye. But I mean, this is things I don't know. That's the thing where you can if you had like I don't know why. I know they wanted to have someone young to be the paralegal to keep like building her up. But it would have been so great to have the characters, the blonde Phantom in there too, because she was the one of the big draws in the comic book because she had some of the best bits, like not better than no, because she was less of a straight person and she was a little more straight and a little more Raquel Welch. Whereas I think there's a shot when issue 4 where the blonde Phantom is older and heavier, but she's a hero at heart. So she's like, "We got to stop the stilt man." And then she's like, and then she has a thought in her head of putting the costume on, but it's a heavier version for herself. It's like, okay, can't do that. But she's very resourceful and stuff like that, and she's able to help She-Hulk to get out of out of that one. So she's always a part of like no the mainstay with the jumping rope thing. That storyline is so wacky outside of with the jumping rope because it's connected to US1, and the She-Hulk is like they have all these interludes to all the stuff because Byrne keeps getting in trouble with the editor Renee Wittestatter where he has the jump rope and she gets all upset about that. And the next time it gets to the story, which is big cosmic thing, but Wheezy, I think that the next story is like Louise Mason is like, how did I gain weight? How did this happen? He said, no, you said you had a weight problem at this point when you were rejuvenated, and that's what happened. He's like, but when did it ever happen? That's the writer. The writer. I'm protesting this comic book, and I'm not showing up anymore in this. And then it's like, all right, and She-Hulk's like, I agree with you. So like that, it really got to some point where it's just like, this whole thing with the whole US1, which is real cosmic, but this was a real rinky. You know what US1 was? A real rinky-dink comic book, and Burns turned into a big cosmic fun sort of thing. So I mean, I don't think they had the money to do all of that. They already used it on the Hulk traveling into space. So the force is like, oh, what's that? Phase 5.
Oh man,
Phase 5.
that was so bad. That was bad. That was bad. Man, you really hit
Phase
them with that
5
one.
is coming.
You really hit them with that one. Like, yeah, you use all your money on that one on that 3 second that 3 second bit right over there used all the money.
You see, we got the stubble. You can see the ship, all that stuff. We had to tie it in there. It's not gonna. Oh, the Hulk will show up later. Anyway, well, we have there's so much other stuff to explore, which they should be exploring in the TV show. So we wouldn't have to talk about all this other stuff, right? So, any last words?
No, I think I've said enough.
Spinner Rack out.
Out.